What is up, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, so you guys know what that means. Another edition of the Buffalo Blitz right here on the Built-in Buffalo Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter network. And as always, it comes out tomorrow morning, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast. We have a lot to talk about. I'm going to give my quick thoughts on the Stefon Diggs trade because I never got to speak about it last week because I was in London. We're going to talk a lot about pick 28, what the Bills do with pick 28. Do they move up? Do they sit there? Do they go back? What teams they could move up with? What kind of I wrote a couple packages. That sounded weird, but a couple trade packages out that I'm going to throw out, Lance, and see what we got there. Talk about some free agent wide receivers that maybe the Bills could add, maybe post-draft as well. But Lance, most importantly, how you doing, my man?
Doing good. Another Tuesday night edition of the Buffalo Blitz. Love it here. And there's so much uncertainty now with the Buffalo Bills, especially at the wide receiver position. And it's an exciting time because there's so many possibilities. So we're going to get into some of that. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Stefon Diggs. Obviously, we missed you last week, so welcome back to the program. And
thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Comment section is open. Kind of drop anything about draft content. We have, after this, 2 more shows, Lance, until the draft. So we have a lot to dive into, not just receivers. I know receivers are the focal point of the discussion, and rightfully so. And it was even before the Stefon Diggs trade, and now it's obviously even more of a focal point post Stefon Diggs trade here in Buffalo. So obviously we have a lot to talk about, but tonight we're gonna get into a lot of stuff. Should the Bills move up in the first round? What teams they can move up with? How far they can move up? What do they do if they stay at pick 28? But before we get that, hi, Lance's mom. Hope you're doing good. We got someone tuning in from the Deep South, Alabama. So how we doing, my man? Appreciate you tuning in. Guys, comment section is open on Facebook and YouTube. But Lance, I know you said you're giving me the free ground to talk about the Stefon Diggs trade for about a minute or two here because Absolutely. I never got to. You got to speak on it when you were with Akeem on Saturday night, filling in for Dave. So you got to speak on that. So the Stefon Diggs trade, right? I was in London this past week, and so I was on obviously a little bit of a 5-hour different time zone compared to the Eastern time zone. So I was walking into a bar, about to go into a bar, look at my phone, Lance, right? And guess what pops up? A message in our Facebook Built-in Buffalo chat saying like, "Oh my God," and I'm like, crap, what happened now? And I'm like, oh, maybe we're meeting with someone we don't want to meet with, that fun stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Or what did Diggs tweet this time, right? Something like that. So open Twitter and it says the Adam Schefter report, or whoever reported it, that Stefon Diggs has been traded to the Houston Texans. First reaction, my heart sunk. I think I had that type of reaction, and I think a lot of Bills fans had that type of reaction. My heart sunk, right? Because through all the yes, it was right. Yeah, it was Matt, actually. Through all the thick and thin and all the Twitter messages and all not speaking to the media and all that nonsense that came with Steph. Years in Buffalo were remarkable. He was super productive throughout most of the regular season and sometimes into the playoffs. One of the best receivers that we have seen in a Buffalo Bills uniform. He's up there with the molds, and I'm not going to say Andre Reed, but he's up there with those type of guys that have wore a Buffalo Bills uniform, right? He's helped turn Josh Allen into that elite quarterback that we saw from a rookie quarterback that was a gunslinger, that was erratic, that turned into a top 2 quarterback in the National Football League, and that contends for the MVP every single year and has won 4 straight AFC Easts, right? Mm-hmm. But as soon as I thought that, I was like, okay, what did we get back? I see 2025 second-round pick from the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm like, okay, that's tough. That's not the best what you want. And I also saw, and I think one of your reactions, Lance, the dead cap. And one of the reasons you and I said they weren't trading Diggs every time someone brought it up in our show or when we talked about it was the dead cap that it could hit this year for the Buffalo Bills. But they made it work, Lance. They made that dead cap work. And after this season, or going into next year's offseason, so the 2025 offseason, nothing will be on the books from Stefon Diggs. So the remaining couple years on his contract that the Bills were on books for, if he stayed in the Bills, are no longer on books. And then I was like, okay, 2025 second. But then, Lance, you find out a day later or so, whatever it was, that the Texans are voiding the final 3 years of that contract. So he's a 1-year rental that becomes a free agent after this season. So the Bills traded essentially a 1-year rental for a 2025 second round pick that they might be using in a couple weeks. They might not even use that pick to select the player. They might use that pick to move up with another pick to select the player. So then I thought about, what does that lead at? What does it open up in the receiver room? It opens up a gap, right? And I'm like, Bean has a plan. They're going to go get a receiver. I don't know if they're moving up. I don't know if they're staying at 28. And it also opens up something that you and I have talked about, double dipping, but now it becomes even more into the plans, I think, for the Buffalo Bills. So I want to say thank you to Stefon Diggs. Remarkable 4 years in Buffalo. It clearly ran its course inside the locker room and inside the organization, right? Like, we're never fully going to know. And I know the report came out from Tim Graham and about the Allen snapping at him after the week 1 against the Jets, right? And I think it's ran its course in the organization. Stefon Diggs probably requested a trade. I think that's I'm kind of reading under the lines there. I'm not going to speak for you, but I think that's kind of where he was at. And the Bills went to go look for a trade partner, and they found a trade partner in the Houston Texans, who voided 3 years of his deal. So Houston's on a 1-year rental for a 2025 second round pick. That was originally the Minnesota Vikings. Anything else you want to add to that, or did I think I hit everything?
Yeah, you got it. I mean, I think, as I said on the founder spot on Saturday, the Diggs discussions with the staff were just ongoing and leading towards, if this isn't going to work for you or whatever, if there's a relationship with Josh Allen that maybe was deteriorating or, not as strong as it once was, however you want to say, there were differences of opinion. We definitely saw that throughout the year. I thought it wasn't going to be this big of a deal to cause this move. And that's why, like, my initial reaction was like, wow, they took that dead money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, boom. It is what it is. And a lot of people in the comments here, thank you for being active. If you're not
Appreciate it.
active in the comments, join us, comment on YouTube or Facebook, or the comments that we can see. So if you're on Twitter, come on over to YouTube or Facebook and get involved. Love to hear your opinions. And, the last few shows leading up to the draft, I want to be a lot more interactive with you guys, because we can regurgitate all the same stuff that everyone else is, but getting your opinions and reacting to those, I think will be a little bit
Good
fun.
questions.
So come in, give us some questions, and
Yeah.
obviously if you want to throw a super chat in there, we'll display that right away and go that route. But yeah, the Diggs trade, initially shocker, and then as it's worn off, it's like, here comes the youth movement and let's roll. So.
Yeah, the youth movement's coming. A lot of people have been tweeting. Matt has been one of the home in the comment section about the decrease in Diggs stats from about halfway through the year into the rest of the year, right? And the Bills are 6-1. And look, I agree with those stats, right? Like, no, not agree with those stats. Those are stats. Like, you can't disagree or agree. Those are facts. But I think there's a little more context to that than just that. But I also think that shows you where Stefon Diggs was, and maybe this offense doesn't need him anymore. But I think there's still a little deeper dive into that. But yeah, Lance, you said comments. Guys, throw up some draft scenarios. Throw some crazy draft scenarios. Why not, right? Like, this is the time where you can do this, right? Throw crazy draft scenarios. You see on Twitter, people always like, well, this guy's not going to get to this pick. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You can tell those people to go kick rocks, because it's the NFL draft. It's crazy. You know what happens in the NFL draft, and we're going to discuss some of it tonight and maybe what the Bills could be doing. So throw some scenarios at us, as always. Joey's right. It would be cool if you had a phone line where we can call in and leave our opinions and ask questions. So here's
actually on Monday nights they have Buffalo against the World, and Kulu and Cousin Brad do a great job.
They do.
Where they actually do have a phone line, and you can go. So check out on Monday nights,
yeah.
Buffalo against the World, and you can do that. That's really cool. For us, you can always leave it in text here, and
We'll read it.
we're definitely going to read it.
Also, Lance, I can just put your number in the chat, man. And I
Yeah,
think
just throw my number in there. Give me a
throw your
call.
number.
I don't know how we're going to. I'll put them on speaker, and you'll hear them through my microphone, I guess.
I'm joking. Well, we're still not. We're not that famous to do that. Okay, Lance. One of the bigger questions that we got to talk about, right? As soon as the Bills parted with Stefon Diggs, the first initial reaction outside of talking about Diggs, focus to the draft, and should the Bills move up in the first round? So we can go quick rapid fire here because the next question is probably even more important. It kind of segues into the same kind of comment, like who they could move up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some teams in mind with me. But Lance, if you're Brandon Bean right now and you're picking at 28, should the Bills move up in the first round?
Well, I know I'm not going to be in the majority probably here, but not only do I not think they should move up, I don't even know if I'm sold on picking a wide receiver in the first round for the Bills. As much of the need that is there, the value may not be. And so either trading back from 28 and, getting a receiver plus another position in the second round, maybe collecting a third round in the wake of doing so would be good. But I think trading up just has to be for the right guy. I'm torn between whether that's Harrison or Odunze. I think Odunze is kind of the perfect fit in Buffalo, and he'd be a little less expensive probably. So if you're getting to, outside of the top 10 and Odunze is there, then go up there and go. But
would you?
But yeah, I don't know if if you're staying pat at 28, we'll see who's there. And there's good receivers throughout this whole draft. You sent me a text of a tweet that was put out earlier about the top 10 salaried guys at receiver. And that really stuck with me. And I think that kind of really goes to, and it was from Joe Marino from the Locked On Bills podcast. But Tyreek Hill, 165th pick in the draft, Devontae Adams, 53rd pick in the draft, Cooper Kupp, 69th pick in the draft, AJ Brown, 51st pick in the draft, DK Metcalf, 64th pick in the draft, Deebo Samuel, 36, Michael Pittman Jr., 34, Calvin Ridley, 26th, Terry McLaurin, 76th, and then Diggs was 146th overall. Those are the top 10 receivers in the league, not necessarily the best top 10 best receivers in the league for sure. Those are where those guys were picked. And this is a loaded receiver class. I'm not saying anyone's going to be better than Marvin Harrison. Obviously, that's pretty as much of a lock as you can get is that kid's going to be great, but mortgaging the future to get him seems a little irresponsible. Seems like as much as I'd love it. I mean, look, I'm going to root for it if they do it because it's like, all right, go all out, let's go. But if they don't, then I'm going to understand why as well. I don't think that Malik Neighbors is necessarily going to be worth it in the end. If
Really?
I'm forecasting,
I was about to ask you that.
So
you wouldn't trade it from Malik Neighbors?
Depends on how. I mean, if he's sitting there in the teens, maybe
he's probably not going to be. I think he's
not going to be. Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So but crazy things happen in the draft. There's runs on positions. People are going to move around and trade up, and guys are going to fall naturally. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could be one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and fell throughout the first round because the people thought they can get him later.
Yeah. Also, teams have different players ranked on their boards, right? Like the consensus could be. I think the consensus is probably Harrison. If you polled every single draft expert, right? If you polled every single one, I would say the consensus top 4 is for receivers is Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Odunze, Brian Thomas, right? One team has Brian Thomas ahead of Odunze, and they're picking at, let's say, 10 or 11 or 12 or 9 or 8. They go Brian Thomas Jr.
That's my dream, Sarah, because I actually think that Rome Odunze is actually the best fit in this draft for the Bills.
Oh, he would be receiver. So good.
And so if the trade up is for Odunze, then I'm 100% on board with that. But I think that it's just the cost of going up high enough to get any of
It's
these guys is just that outweighs what the risk, the reward just isn't, the risk outweighs the reward in my opinion. I don't
yeah,
think that you're really getting um or I don't know that you're going to get the best receiver in the draft at that spot, and you may be able to get a guy that's, like I just named the top 10 paid receivers right now. None of them were high draft picks, and I know that
Justin
people are saying,
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
but these are the top 10 contracts right now, and Jefferson and Chase will be there. But
yeah.
it's just a matter of fact. Like you're going to have to look at who fits, the Buffalo Bills the best. And, there's going to be a lot of guys that aren't first rounders that fit better than some of the guys that are going to go early.
I think the Bills should move up, right? My opinion, they should move up. But there's a different conversation about moving up from 28 to, let's say, 22 or to 25 than from 28 to 9 with the Chicago Bears. I don't think people understand how much draft capital you have to give up to get from 28 to the 9th pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand that the Bears are picking 9th, right? That's a lot of teams' favorite because they went Caleb Williams, right? They're going Caleb Williams because he's the best prospect in the draft, and they're going to the 9th pick. They want to add a weapon, but maybe they want to add a little more capital, right? You're giving up probably 28. You're giving up 2025's first. Probably throwing another second, maybe even another second. Throwing a third in 2025, maybe a fourth in 2024. You're pushing 5 to 6 to 7 draft picks. I don't think people understand how much you have to give up to go from 28 to 9. Look at the Julio Jones. That's what you kind of have to do. And that player has to be Julio Jones. Not the same skill set, but that same production. Julio Jones, one of the best receivers in the football for the time when he was in his prime. That has to be the production if you go up from 28 to 9. The Bills have a lot of draft picks in this draft. They don't have a lot of day 1 and day 2 draft picks in this draft. They got a lot of day 3 draft picks. But when you're moving up from 28 to 9, teams aren't going to take your 3/4 or your 3/5. Like, that's not going to move the needle. You have to give up day 1s and early day 2s. So think about it. You're giving up 28. You're probably giving up 60. You're probably giving up Minnesota's pick the following year. You're probably giving up your 2025 first, and you're probably throwing something else. If you think that's worth it, that is totally okay. That is up with you. I think that's where you kind of want to be with. But I don't know if the Bills can do that. But if you do that, Lance, that player has to be Julio Jones type of player. Like, that guy has to be Jamar Chase. That guy has to be Justin Jefferson. That guy has to be Devontae Adams. That guy can't be Michael Pittman Jr.
Right.
He can't be Terry McLaurin. Those are really good NFL receivers, and we would take them on our teams in a heartbeat. But you can't do that and those guys be that. If you take a guy at 28 and he turns into Terry McLaurin or Michael Pittman Jr. or DK Metcalf, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick. But if you go up from 28 to 9, mortgage your future capital, 4 to 6 draft picks, and that guy turns out to be a borderline number 1 receiver, that's not worth it.
No, not at all. That's the tough part, because there's going to be a lot of really good players, and I want to make sure we've kind of skipped over a lot of the different banners we have, and that's fine. We can go many different directions with this discussion. We've kind of been bouncing all over the place.
We can talk about what teams they can move up. I
mean,
I want to
overall, I think both of our preferences would be not to move up. I think that's pretty well stated. We kind of discussed that a couple of weeks ago as well. And the Diggs trade just hasn't changed that, because there's enough talent in this wide receiver class in the draft that allows us to pick, even if our first receiver off the board is in the second round, and then we get a second one in the third or fourth round. I still think that there's going to be guys in those areas that have a successful, legitimate NFL career, and that the Bills still come away with this draft with the most value to set themselves up for the future, because the wide receiver position is definitely important to this offense, but it's not the end all be all. And we're going to have a lot more reliability on the guys that are in house already with Shakir and Kincaid and Cook, and those guys are going to have to perform.
One final thing before I want to get to, I have some trade packages I'm going to shoot at you for moving up, and because I think it's a fun topic and it's a legit competition. I think there's not a difference in the definition of it, but there's a difference in the context of it, of trading up from 28 to 9 than trading up from 28 to 25. Like that's like you're on board for that if you want to go get your guy, because that costs you a 4th round pick, right? You know what I mean? Or even 28 to 22. Right? It's like there's context into where you move up. Is he saying I'd say it takes 28, 128, 144, 160, both 2s next year. I have a feeling the teams, if you move up to like 9 or 8 or 10 or 11, I think people probably want your 2025 first, right? Like I feel like that has to be in your trade. Would you agree with that? I'm not a trading picks expert over here, but I feel like that's what most trades from that spot kind of warrant.
Both number one. Yeah, this year's number one, next year's number one. Is that what you said?
Sorry, what? You froze for a second.
Yeah, you kind of glitched out. Can you say that takes both number ones, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Because Izzy didn't add is the other number one. I'm thinking you have to add. I'm not saying you have to because I don't want to, but I'm assuming that's what it would cost, right? Like that's like I think also people have to remember if you trade with the Bills, they're assuming they're picking again in the 20s next year, right? They're assuming they're probably a playoff team and competing for a Super Bowl. That pick's not going to be 5. Like you know what I mean? So it's less value just with the team that you're trading with already. Sorry, me glitching out threw us off for a loop right there. Any comments you want to get to before we get to what teams they could trade up with?
Black Panthers coming in, McConkey not better than Javon Baker. Thinks everyone looks good in Georgia, on the Georgia team, which, has some merit. I don't know. I'm not going to say one's going to be better than the other, but it just goes to show you, like, that's the whole conversation. What are we going to trade up for Brian Thomas Jr. and give up draft assets when we can get Troy Franklin at 28 or even trading back and still getting him? I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to have the better career. I'm not sure who the better fit is. The Bills have their guy. They know which one they like better. I know early on, our guy, Akeem, co-founder, was really high on Troy Franklin. And I'm starting to, the more I watch him, the more I'm consuming the stuff. Like, I really think that, that's an idea where if you're trading back and getting that guy and then getting another guy later, as well, either the guys, any receiver from Washington I'm in on, but it's going to be tough to get Rome Odunze. So, but Polk or McMillan at the right spot would be good. Obviously Leggett is there. So seeing who could be available at 60 as well is I just think there's definitely guys to be had. Brendan Rice is a guy. I'm not sure where he
like him
on the draft board anymore. He was a mid to upper second rounder. He seems to maybe sliding down to the 3rd or 4th round now.
I still think he's in day. I think he's in day 2, but he might be a little, like you said, falling down. Like, look, Lance, there's a ton of guys, right? And there's a ton of different options, right? Like, you could double dip. You can say at 28. I'm a huge AD Mitchell guy. I think you know that. You can take AD Mitchell at 28. And I texted you, AD Mitchell at 28, Troy Franklin at 60. Like, I don't think Troy Franklin gets the 60, but someone's getting to 60. Someone's getting to 28 that you don't think is getting to 28 and that you don't think is getting to 60. That's just how the NFL draft works. It's interesting what the Bills do. They have their board. They have the guys they move up for. They have a plan. I do think they move up. I don't know how far they move up. I do think they probably try to use that 2025 second that they got from Minnesota as a way to move up. But if it doesn't fall their way, you move back to 35, get an extra 3rd, get an extra little draft capital, get Leggett, get someone else at 60, right? Like a Javon Baker. Ricky Purcell from Florida, Jalen Polk from Washington. We had a little Washington guy from you, maybe Malachi Corley, Roman Wilson, a guy that I think would be great in this system for the Buffalo Bills, a guy that I think could be a sleeper in round one. Like, there's always a one or two prospects that go in round one, and when they announce it, and you're like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? I think like Roman Wilson could be that type of guy, because I think he's viewed really highly throughout the National Football League. Okay. Black Panther's clearly not a Lam McConkey fan, so we're going to move off because we're not going to talk about Lam McConkey.
Yeah, and Black Panther, he could be a second round. He probably is going to be a second round pick. I don't know. I mean, I see what the run on positions are. There's still a lot of tackles that are going to be picked in the first round as well. There's still going to be some corners and, a lot of quarterbacks, obviously. So, I think that, there's still other positions. Not every receiver is going to go in the first round. We may see a run on them. We may see some guys overdrafted there. We'll see. I mean, I guess that's the whole fun of it. But, other teams may be moving up to get the pieces that they think they need as well at different positions, whether, it's an edge or, a tackle or, people desperate to get that quarterback. So
I want to, before we get to some more draft topic, someone brought up the T. Higgins.
Yeah, I was going to get into, yep. Yeah, it's cool. Basically.
Did I jump the ship there, Lance?
No, you're good. We can talk about it anytime you want. Basically, what I was going to say is T. Higgins needs an extension. So the way that it can be structured is to allow him to have a lower cap hit in this current season, and then he'll take a higher cap hit on throughout the rest of the other seasons. And with the Diggs move, we still have cash to use, which can be used to pay him the bonus type stuff this year, and then we're able to push his big cap hits 2 years down the road.
The T. Higgins is interesting. You laid out the financial structure perfectly, and you can make it work, right?
Mm.
I would be shocked if since he trades T. Higgins to the Bills. That's just my opinion, but like, is that the move you make? Like, do they send a second round pick for T. Higgins? Like, I don't know how much T. Higgins' draft capital cost. Would T. Higgins garner a number one? I don't think so. But Diggs got a second. Diggs is a little older, in his 30s. T. Higgins is a young up and coming receiver. Diggs is way more productive. He's more productive than T. Higgins, and T. Higgins has never really been a true number one just because Jamar Chase is there, right? Do they would you give up a second for T. Higgins?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Would you give
up that
first?
It's the first round pick? I don't know. That's tough.
Okay.
Maybe though, I guess if they think that if they're gonna bring him in and make him the focal point, and that's their plan on offense, then fine, give up whatever he takes and what he's worth on the market. But if you're going to be spreading the ball around, trying to run the ball a little bit more, and how's their offense going to look now under Joe Brady, full Joe Brady playbook? That's the part of all this stuff that's happening now. It's all new to us because the offense is going to be different as well. The offensive coordinator's coming in now implementing his own system, which is not going to be the same. It may be similar in some aspects to Ken Dorsey's offensive last year, but there's going to be a lot of different calls and all kinds of things, wrinkles and personnel usages and everything else that come along this year. And so the plan that Joe Brady uses this year is going to really depend, that's what really the wide receiver that they select is going to rely upon. They have to get the right guy for their plan. And that's tough to know because we don't know what the plan of attack is yet for Brady and this new offensive staff here.
Yeah, I think a second rounder, like a 25 second and a fourth. I would probably do that. I don't know if that's in the cards, but I think that is something that we have to keep in our back pocket. But I don't know. I don't see it happening, Lance. That's just my opinion. I don't, but I didn't see the Bills trading Stefon Diggs happening. So yeah. What the heck do I know?
I would disagree with that though, real quick, that it's not going to happen. I think something.
No, I never said it wasn't going to happen. I said I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, like a Higgins or an Ayuk or something like that. I think a move is imminent to try to get someone else
Oh, so you think
so
there's
that the draft may
okay.
not there. I don't think they really go in to the draft with like a huge need. That's just
So
not the
you
way they've
think they
done
make a
things.
trade for either
But
Ayuk or Higgins?
the problem is that their flexibility is more after June 1st, so it's hard to do that now. So although they don't like to go into the draft with huge needs, they might have to this year and then make a move after June 1st if they want to make those type of trades or deals. Whether, we're going to get into the free agency thing, but
Joey said, Peter, would you trade next year's second round pick that we got for Diggs for Higgins? 100%. I would trade Minnesota's second round pick for Higgins. I know that second round pick's going to be or could be good. I do think because it's either going to be Sam Darnold for the Vikings or a rookie quarterback starting for Minnesota. So they don't appear to be great, but it's the NFL, so you never really know. So yeah, I would probably give up 2025 second round pick from Minnesota for Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
We did that for Diggs. Yeah. So it's basically trading like Diggs for Higgins. Right?
I'm down. Yeah, I'd be down.
Isn't that what that is?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't that kind of just it's a weird way to think about that, but that would essentially be that, and maybe that you throw in a fourth this year or next year.
Younger though, so it makes sense.
Oh, I'm not saying that's not the wrong trade, but I think it's funny to look at it like that. I didn't even think about that when I said it. Lance, let's talk about some teams they can move up with. So, and how far they can move up, right? So I'm going to move my microphone to a side. Can you still hear me kind of clear?
Yeah.
Cool. So some trades I kind of did today. I'm going to throw them out to you, and you're going to tell me basically yay or nay, or basically tell me to go F myself or not F myself. So you choose your words wisely. And I got
always F yourself.
I got 4 trades, 2 picks in the teens and 2 picks in the 20s. 13th pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Scenario, Raiders their quarterback doesn't fall to them that they want. They're like, Brock Bowers is gone. Some receivers are gone. Whatever. They don't want to go. Their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy's not there. They don't want to reach on Penix. I don't know. They want to move back, get some more capital. They're still rebuilding that thing and just add down the draft. So the Bills get the 13th pick, and the Bills send 28th pick in the draft, 2025 first round pick, and the 2025 second round pick from Minnesota.
Okay.
Would you do that?
No. Who's going to be there?
Okay, now you're ruining the game. No, I'm joking.
Because that's the problem. Like,
Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. He's the best receiver available.
Nope.
For all these picks, it's probably going to be Brian Thomas Jr.
And just
okay.
Not for me.
So you say no to that.
Yep.
Okay. 15th pick to the Indianapolis Colts. Bills send the 28th pick 133, and Minnesota's second round pick, along with a 6th round pick. So you keep your next year's first, and you only have to give up your 28th, pick 133, Minnesota's second in the next year, and a 6th. That is a little appealing. That's a little more appealing to me. And that's Brian Thomas Jr.'s on the board. And anyone else outside of the top 3 guys.
Yeah.
No?
The reason it's tough. Like, I get it. That's a little bit more appealing.
Right? I think that's a little better of a trade.
Still not looking to do it because it's like, dude, some of these other guys can be just as good or better. A.D. Mitchell could be better than, Brian Thomas.
Yeah, 100%. So, but if that's their guy, that's their guy.
Yeah.
That's what we're kind of doing. They're not going up for the guy. They're not their guy. So
no, I understand that. I just, from my perspective, I don't.
So you don't see a big enough gap between Brian Thomas Jr. and A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Legette, etc. Right? Is that where we're kind of going with this?
At the cost of other players that you need to add to this roster to fill it out. You know what I mean?
That trade I whipped up with the Colts is not bad because you only give up a 4th this year, and you only give up next year's Minnesota's pick and your 28th pick. Like, that's a little better.
It's not a bad deal. I mean, like I said, if they do that,
no, not at all.
It's not like.
Yeah, it's not a bad. I got 2 more trades. Steelers at the 20th pick. So we're going to the 20s. So you go from 28 to 20. You give up pick 28 and Minnesota's second round pick in 2025 from 28 to 20.
Just for the extra second round pick.
Yeah, basically you're swapping first and you give them Minnesota's second round pick in 2025.
Yeah. Seems
You do
pretty
that?
easy enough. Easy enough. Sure.
Yeah, okay. I would do that. That's like at 20, and that's their guy. Let's say it's A.D. Mitchell. Let's say it's Brian Thomas Jr. Let's say it's whoever it is. We might not all like it, but that's their guy. I think that's a good trade. And then Packers, 25th pick. This is like kind of like what we do with Kincaid.
Yeah.
20, you give up 28, so you swap first and you give up pick 133. And that's more of a, this is your guy. We have to go get him because we think teams picking 26 or 27 is going to take him. Is that fair?
Fair enough.
What do you? I like the Steelers one makes a lot of sense to me. The Colts one I can get behind. The Raiders is a bit much in my opinion. That other first is a little dicey.
Yeah. Now, if Odunze's there at 13, I'm cashing that in easily.
But, so okay, ready? If Odunze's there at 9, and you call Chicago, I love these scenarios. And you call Chicago.
Yep.
And they're like, okay.
Chicago's the best team. If Odunze's the target, Chicago's your team. And they have pick 1.
I think Odunze will be there at 9.
They have receivers already, so they're not receiver needy. It's always good to get another one, but I was saying they're not necessarily as desperate or in the position the Bills are in for a receiver. They have 3 decent receivers there. And so they just make too much sense, but Bills aren't going to be the only ones on the phone with them for that 9th pick. So the price might go higher than we're willing to pay.
Yeah. So let's say you give up 28. So you give up 2025 first, Minnesota second, and your third in 2025, along with a 4th this year. You doing that for Odunze?
Yep.
Is it Odunze or Dunze?
Not sure.
Okay.
I call him Odunze. You can call him Odunze. He probably wants us to get it right, but
would you do that?
I'll call him later and ask.
Okay. Will you do that?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay. Would you do that for Neighbors?
I don't know.
What's hesitating you on Malik Neighbors? Because I'm curious to get into that. Not into that, but
I don't know. He's got some red flags, and he's got things that for me I'm not in love with. He's had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, so it makes me nervous. Like, how good can he actually get to? He's going to have Josh Allen, so he's got another good quarterback he'll play with. But stepping up to the next level, oftentimes these guys just aren't able to find the success that everyone thinks they may. So I'm just nervous about putting, mortgaging any type of the future for a guy like that. Really, I think Odunze is just a perfect fit, and that's why I'm willing to do it for him. But otherwise,
that's interesting.
Obviously, if they can figure out a way and make it happen to get Harrison here too, like, I'm all for that. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a responsible thing to do, but if that's the direction they want to go and they're just going to try to hit the home run with him, then go for it. You're trying to win. You're aggressive. Let's go.
I like Neighbors. I think I would move up into the top 10 for Neighbors. I don't know if I want to move up in the top 10 for anybody because I think it's too expensive.
Right.
But if you moved up into the top 10 and you got Marvin Harrison or Odunze or Neighbors, I would be 100% on board. If you went to the top 10 and got Brian Thomas Jr., I probably would not be on board. That's kind of where I sit, in my opinion. And probably the highest I would want to move up for Brian Thomas is, like I said, pick 15 to Indianapolis Colts. And that's a good question, Lance. I put it out. I think the highest they can actually move up is 13 to the Raiders. That's, in my opinion, the highest they can move up. Realistically, I think that's the highest they can move up without completely giving up the farm.
Yeah, they're selling the farm to get to Arizona or Chargers at 4.
Oh my God!
And it's just
that's a different trade than going to 9, going to Arizona or the Chargers.
Even so, if one of those two, well, I guess probably one of those may fall, but if they got their buddies, the Giants, sitting there at 6,
That's a phone call.
But again, I don't.
Teams want to go from 6 to 28. Wait, like Lance, I'm not saying you don't agree with me, but like from 6 to 28 is not a good jump.
No.
You're not, and I think Minnesota moves up into the top 5 or 6 to go get their quarterback. Like I think that's like probably swap with the Chargers. That's what a lot of people are saying. The Jets want to move back. I've been reading from 10. Probably the Bills probably don't trade with the Jets. I probably don't think that's a legit partnership in my opinion. You never know. I wouldn't put that. I think 13 is the highest with the Raiders. I think 13 is the highest with the Raiders, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're not talking about giving away the phone. We're talking about not doing it because we don't think it's smart. So that's why we're saying we're not going to
Yeah,
do
we're
it.
not. No. Yeah, he missed.
And we're been adamant the whole show that that's not necessarily our
also
preference. I just don't think it's smart.
I mapped out the Colts trade right from 28 to 15. That's not giving up the farm.
Right.
Giving up the farm gets you into the top 10. And that giving up the farm, in my opinion, has to land you either Harrison, Neighbors, and a Dunze. I don't think they do that. And sorry, Chris, if we came across not fully clear there, but yeah, we are both not on board to giving up the farm. I'm on board for moving up in the draft. That I'm a little more on board than Lance is, but moving up in the draft to go get your guy. I'm not saying mortgage the future. 28 to 15. I like that kind of spot. I think that's a doable trade that doesn't give you up a ton of assets that can go get you your Brian Thomas Jr. That's where I kind of think.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that
also
if Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy and that's really going to be it, then and you have to go up, you think you have to go get him, and
at 15
that Colts deal's there or the Seahawks deal's there, then
yeah,
for me, I just think that when you're talking now Brian Thomas Jr., there's not that much. I just don't think that it would be enough difference. I think you'd be able to get the same potential and success out of other guys in this draft, but I could be wrong. I mean, I definitely could be wrong. It's just my thought. If Brian Thomas Jr. is that guy and he's going to be that, but for me, it's more, straight down the field type of guy. And, that's going to be lethal with Josh Allen, sure. But, as long as he can develop the other things that are required to be a wide receiver 1. So really the only player I'm interested in getting, to really go way up or anything past 9 for the Bears is Harrison. And if they got to 9 without giving up way too much to get a Dunze, I'd be okay. If a Dunze gets into the teens, then I say you pull the trigger on whatever you got to do. If you want to do that Raiders trade at 13 and Odunze is there, it's 100%.
A little much, yeah. But yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. The Ladd McConkey debate in our comment section right now is
good fun.
It's an interesting one. I'm not going to tell you how to evaluate draft prospects. I usually try not to avoid that. I give you what I think. I would say Ladd McConkey is a borderline first round prospect, right? He probably goes in the second round. I think saying he's Chris Hogan might be just a bit disrespectful, but that is just my opinion. And
I always think of the Tacoma FD show when I think of Ladd McConkey because that was the name of the character there for the fire chief on that show. So it's where my mind goes every time I think about the guy.
So we're drafting a fire chief if we take him at 20.
Yeah, basically.
Is that what we're doing? Basically the talent level of a fire chief? Is that what we're doing here?
Hey, firemen are very talented, so.
The Chris Hogan comments in this comment section are getting weird, man. What are we doing, guys? Why are we talking about Chris Hogan?
Anyways.
I don't know. What are we talking about Chris Hogan for?
Pick 28. What do you think?
Chris Hogan?
Chris Hogan. Let's take him. McConkey's in play at 28, right?
100%.
He's there. And,
Chris Hogan's not, though.
Yeah, he's not. So for me,
sorry.
I think a non-receiver is at play at 20. If you're staying put at 28, I think a non-receiver is 100% at play. Because if you're at 28, you haven't been able to trade up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably your guy probably isn't there.
Fair enough.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, obviously, like we're saying, AD Mitchell's there. Fine, let's have him and run with it, and everyone's happy. But
Not everyone, but some.
maybe but maybe he's not even available. Maybe somebody else thinks that the same and trades up ahead of the Bills and
That's like
takes.
when I said 20 to 22 might not be for Brian Thomas Jr. It might be
So,
for AD Mitchell.
yeah, the plan. That's the tough thing, and I mentioned this before. The tough part about the plan moving forward is that they don't really have control of their plan anymore. They're going to be reactive to what happens, or they're going to be dependent upon other teams to make the decisions to either accept a deal they want to do, or they're going to have to go to a player in free agency and he's going to have to accept the deal they offer them, or accept a trade, however it is, like, or their guy has to not be picked before they pick in the draft. So a lot of their plan moving forward is really just playing out scenarios. If this, then do that. And that's going to be the extent of their plan right now, because there's no way they can understand exactly what other teams are going to do or willing to do. So that's the thing I've been thinking through since the Diggs has moved on. It's like, all right, like he's got a plan. Unfortunately, I think that plan is very dependent on other people's decisions and not Brandon Beane's decision.
And their guy, but it also could mean their guy is not
Right.
like their guy, or their guy that they love, they think is going to be there at 28, or they're at 25, or they're at 26, or they're at 27, right?
Right.
So what do they do if they say I pick 28? I'm going. I wrote in my description, receiver, best receiver available on their board. If there's not one that they want to take at 28, I don't think you take a single player, and I think you trade back. Those are my two scenarios, right? I like Chop Robinson. I like Latue. Who else do I like? I like Newton. I like Byron Murphy. I just don't know if you can do that at 28, right? Like I just don't know after the Stefon Diggs trade. And it might make you reach, right? That might happen. And I don't know if Bean is that type of guy and that type of GM, but it's an open discussion because you've left yourself with a hole. And other positions have holes, right? Like every team has holes, but no one on this, no other position on this team has this glaring of a need at the moment.
Right. They're not,
So,
because they're not holes necessarily at the starting position. We have
you're
serviceable
right. Yep.
starters for every position now, except for, and we have a hole at both starting outside wide receiver positions, basically. So your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 positions basically are the holes, and so though it
They're
creates a
taking
massive just overall wide receiver hole, and that's there's no doubt that they're going to target a wide receiver early and draft more than one in this draft. There's no doubt about it. And
that's
it's
what
going to be
we're
interesting to see again who they have pegged. I really love the idea of Troy Franklin at 28 as well. For
yeah, you're
me,
growing on that.
that's a good idea. I think I'm going to piggyback on our guy Akeem on that one and say I like that. Outside of that, someone said if they're not taking receiver at 28, you got to trade back.
I
I'm
agree.
probably more on board with that than anything. But the tough part is Brandon Beane's MO has not been to do that. It's been to be aggressive and go get his guys. So that's why we're, just to put into context, I guess, after 48 minutes of talking to you guys, is like the reason we're talking about the whole trade up scenario is because Brandon Beane has traded up almost every draft here. He doesn't
In
necessarily
the first round, yeah.
he doesn't trade back. He just
That's not
doesn't have that in his repertoire in the history of his draft picks yet. So if he does that this year because it's probably more warranted than other years, great. But we just haven't seen that. We've seen him be aggressive and be the aggressor and move forward. And he even talked about it in the offseason still about moving around and things. And that's why we're talking more about moving up here than moving down or trading back. And that's 100% a possibility. But we just wanted to talk about the move up because that's been the MO of Bean. So do you have did you already say, I guess I didn't remember you saying names, but do you have anything more to say about what they're doing at pick 28, or just thinking receiver and that's it?
I'm thinking receiver, and my second option would be moving back. Like, you could take an edge like Chop Robinson. You could. The UCLA kid. You could take.
If Verse gets there,
You
what
could
do you
take
think?
Verse. Yeah. I would do that. Yeah, Jared Verse at 28 is a hard pass. Hard to pass on. Byron Murphy probably at 28. Like, do you take Newton? Like, we had this discussion a couple weeks ago in our social media chat, right? And I was on them. I like Newton a lot, but can you draft him just to play behind Ed Oliver at 28, right?
Because
And
maybe their move up is in round 2. Maybe they're trading that 2025
yeah.
second rounder and 60 and going up in round 2.
Not a lot of people
And
have talked about that.
they're taking that guy that they really get the value from in round 1 at another position, and then they're going up and getting your Leggett, or maybe if A.D. Mitchell falls into the 30s, they can do that. So,
Or they do this and just be like, they take A.D. Mitchell at 28 and they move up and get Troy Franklin, or they move up and get Leggett, or they move up and get Ladd McConkey, or they move up and get Roman Wilson. That's like a crazy scenario, but that is also a scenario. One other thing I saw today about trading up, Lance, if Keon Coleman is mentioned, honestly, not for him. Should the Bills trade up at 28? I think we move up to 28.
John's been watching enough to know.
Oh, John knows how much you love Keon Coleman. Something that I saw, a visit. Oh man, it is so hot in my room right now. It's driving me nuts. Some visit that I noticed today that sparked a little interest here, and nothing to do with the Bills. Chop Robinson's visiting with the Seattle Seahawks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks are picking at 16. Two things you can take from that, in my opinion. Is Chop Robinson going in the top higher than we think? Is he going in the top 20? Or could that be a trade partner for the Buffalo Bills? Go from 28 to 16. Seattle still gets their guy at 28, Chop Robinson. I'm not saying that's their guy. I'm not saying all that stuff. I'm not saying that insight. I just kind of came to that in my head today.
Yeah,
So,
I think Seahawks are a perfect candidate to move back, to whether it's the Bills or anybody else.
Yeah, I agree. I think they probably are a couple of different needs. Man, what is going on in our comment section, dude?
Yeah, let him have fun. Izzy's got it in there. He's good.
So, Bills fan 7883. Newton and Oliver can play at the same time. Why can't they? But they can they can play together, right?
100%.
I always push back on that a bit. I know you don't.
We've got guys that if it's an obvious rundown, will play the bigger guy.
No, I get that. For me, it's less of you take a guy at 28 that you can't always play on rundowns. That's gonna be a backup to Ed Oliver, and I know they can play together, and I get that. I don't fully love that, and I've seen the Bills try and do that, and they have struggled at times in the interior of their defensive line. I just don't know if you can do that at pick 28, Lance.
People are giving it to Izzy bad.
What is it?
Coleman sent a special message to Josh Allen. That's fine. If he's going to be like a second or third round pick, then take Coleman. 60, but if he sniffs the first round, I swear I'm going to lose my.
If Coleman is 60 and they go another receiver at 28, I'm going to be happy for that. I'll be on board for that.
I think they should double dip at wide receiver. First 2 picks, that's fine with me.
What is going on in our comment section?
So,
Rory's like, it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah, Roy's got it, though. If Izzy doesn't got it, Roy's got it. Be all right. So,
I like Newton, and I know people are like coming at me a little bit with the Newton thing. I like Newton. I don't know if you take him at 28. That's just where I'm at with that pick. Is it worth it to take him at 28?
Probably not.
Let's just hope he doesn't get there, so I don't have to deal with it. I sometimes think about that receiver prospects, and I'm like, just don't be there at 28, so I don't have to deal with talking about it.
Right. So last topic about the draft really was how does trading up affect the rest of the draft? And my thing is, depending on how far you go, a lot of the scenarios we talked about here today don't affect just this draft. They affect next year's too. And that's the hard part that I have, because now receiver being so loaded in this draft kind of deters me from really trying to go reach and get a guy, because it seems like there's enough talent to be able to get the guy you need and the guy that can be successful at 28 or at 60, or even if you get into the third round and get someone, they could have a successful career. A lot of people talking about a guy like Javon Baker in here and stuff like that. There's guys throughout this draft we looked at again, and if you missed it, we talked about the top 10 highest paid wide receivers right now. I know that Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are not in there yet. They will be. So 2 out of the top 10 will be Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. But other than that, it's all guys taken in the second round or later. So that's, I think Pittman was the highest one at 34 or something like that. So that's for me.
Oh, yeah, Ridley was the only round.
Oh, Ridley was a first round pick.
He was 26.
He kind of sucks.
But he's also where the Bills are.
Yeah.
26, 28, there's not a big difference. But you said that perfect. Like, it might not just affect this year's draft, like you said. It might affect 2025, but it does become a question you want to talk about, Lance, because the Bills don't have a lot of day 2 picks this year. They have pick 60. That's the only day 2 pick they have. So if they have to go give that up, it affects this draft a ton. That Minnesota pick in 2025 is not until 2025. It's not this year's draft. That is probably the pick they want to part with before they part with pick 60. I bet you they don't part with pick 60, Lance. I don't think they...
Only if they're parting with it to move up in the second round. That's the only way they do it.
True, but I don't think they're parting with it to be a whole no second round pick.
Yeah, if you have no day 2 picks in this draft, you're kind of in trouble. I think that's where you're really getting all of your talent and your value is in day 2. And not to say there's obviously not talent in round 1. There's always talent in round 1, but it's just the hit rate there isn't always great. So I mean, give me a couple of day 2 picks and get back, move back from 28. I mean, that's really the best plan forward. I think, like I said, the trade up scenario for me is all about not affecting, especially future drafts, and let alone this one, because this is important not only for the receiver room of the Buffalo Bills moving forward, but it's important for their entire roster makeup for the rest of for the next few years. They're going to need to put some young guys in positions here that can have success. And if they don't, you're going to be hoping for next year to hit on a bunch of them again, so they need a good mix of hits this year at a lot of different positions, linemen on either side of the ball, probably a couple of secondary guys that are going to be decent NFL players at least. Then they necessarily need to be a starting caliber person, but it's got to be at least being able to rotate. And if we have the injuries like we did this past year in the secondary, we're going to guys that can come in and step up and play.
Yeah, no, it has a huge effect, and I think they got to be careful what they part with if they move up. And I do think that 2025 Minnesota pick is probably their biggest trade asset that they want to leverage, along with obviously 28, obviously their first round pick this year.
The last thing I'll say before we move on to like the free agent talk and stuff like that, and wanted to get your opinion. So the biggest argument for trading up that makes the most sense to me is you can't waste another year of Josh Allen, right? So with that attitude in mind, I get why people may be more accepting of, mortgaging the future because it's like, well, we got this guy now. We need Josh Allen to be loaded with weapons. I also want him to be loaded with weapons. I just think that the weapons that he can be loaded with are available without trading up. So that's my perspective on that part.
It's a good question. And it's a good conversation to have, right? Because, and obviously I wouldn't say they wasted Josh Allen. And I'm not saying you did say that, but it's like not another year, but like you want to have your best team that you can win a Super Bowl with, right? A team that can get to the Super Bowl, a team that can win the division, win playoff games, get to the Super Bowl. And they moved off Diggs because obviously the locker room wasn't right. the organization wasn't right with him, and he literally was not getting it done in the playoffs at times, and that became a major issue, right? And we had to defend him on that. Now we don't have to defend him on that anymore. But yeah, like if you go get Marvin Harrison Jr., right? You go get Rome Odunze. You go get Malik Neighbors. You give up a little more of your future than you probably wanted to. It might be worth it just because I'm not saying like it could be worth it because you get Josh Allen, another young elite receiver that could turn into Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson right away, like right away, and you're right back into contention. And I still think you're in contention right now, even if you take an AD Mitchell or Xavier Legette at 28, because you're that good. We saw the Chiefs do it last year. We saw the Chiefs do it multiple times with getting rid of Tyreek Hill. They had Rashee Rice, who had a good year, and then obviously Rashee Rice has now his own legal issues. So let's hope that doesn't happen to our guy that we draft. But it works, right? And it's a different league. Like the guys in the top 10 guys that are paid are not all round one. So you can also argue that. Like you can just stay where you are, take a legit receiver that you like, and he's gonna be good. So
if we're getting our starters in the 6th round, like, and we've got 8 day 2 or day 3 picks, and Beans finding Benfords and those kind of guys that are starters in those rounds, then great. But you can't rely on that either every year.
If you can go back, how many drafts to find a Marvin Harrison? If Washington asked for a round,
talking about this year's first, next year's first, and 26 first. No,
no, man. Come on. No, man. What do we
for the number 2 pick in this year's draft to be guaranteed Harrison?
No, I can't do that. You do that for a quarterback that you think's going to turn into a superstar.
Right.
That's it. I'm not doing that, man. That's a ridiculous trade. Sorry to be blunt, but that is ridiculous. Nah, I'm not even.
It's too much. It's too much to give up, I think. Yeah, it's irresponsible.
I don't even know why Washington would even do that, though. I don't know if Washington would do it, too. I think a weird trade for Washington. They really get 3 first. Quarterback. But they get 3 first, but they're like, all these picks are going to be in the mid-20s to 30s.
Yeah.
And we still don't have a quarterback. So what do we do? Yep. Right? Like quarterback solves everything. You get an elite quarterback.
If Washington's guy is like Penix or something, and they know the value's not there,
I guess so.
They could drop back. That's all about.
They probably would want to move back to like 15, like with the swap with Minnesota. Sure. But no, I get what you're saying that. Before we get to a simulator, because do you want to rip a simulator tonight? We kind of should. Sure. Should the Bills target any current free agent wide receivers? I had a list of a couple guys that I like.
Okay.
And this could be post June 1st too, right? We got to remember that. This could be might be post June 1st.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I would almost assume that it's probably going to be post June 1st. Mm-hmm. I know there's speculation around it, but it's just hard to, when we talked about the finances and stuff earlier, just hard to really give anybody that much, before June 1st. And that's the tough part about going into the draft with kind of a bigger hole at a position than you'd like, because now you're, you got, obviously the fans are nervous and things like that, but you typically don't want to go into the draft with people knowing that like that's your number one need, and like you're basically having to get someone, and then that might affect what they're willing to give you as a deal.
Yeah, so I have a couple guys. DJ Chark is a guy that I think could still stretch the field. Had a decent year in Carolina, still pretty productive. Michael Gallup could be an option on the outside. Valdez Scantling is a little bit of a lesser guy. And then St. Brown, former Chicago Bears receiver, who would be really, really cheap, could be another outside guy. I like DJ Chark. He's probably the guy I would probably settle on. A guy that has still top-end speed, had a couple touchdowns last year, had over 500 yards, and a really bad Carolina Panthers offense, can still stretch the field on the outside. Something the Bills are kind of lacking. I think Tyler Boyd is probably the best receiver on the market. He just does not fit a single thing that the Bills need at the moment, right? Like, I think you already have that with Shakir and Curtis Samuel, which is great. you don't need Tyler Boyd, in my opinion. But he is probably the best receiver in the market. I would probably go DJ Chark and then probably Michael Gallup. I'm staying away from Odell. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that I would entertain OBJ at the right deal.
Yeah.
One guy I'm a little bit intrigued with, and I don't know that he necessarily fits a ton, but he's one of the younger free agents out there, and he's played with Herbert a little bit, is Jalen Guyton.
Okay. Yeah.
It wouldn't break the bank. It'd be another body. He's 26, going to be 27. So, doesn't move the needle necessarily, but it's just see what he kind of does. Take a flyer on a guy type of move.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. That's kind of like the St. Brown kind of guy, and I can't say his I forgot his full name. Yes, thank you. From Chicago, that kind of type of guy. Valdez Scantling doesn't really move the needle for me, but he's a guy that you can think about. And Gallup, who's always been a little bit overhyped, I think, in Dallas. But I think DJ Chark for me
injured of late too, right? I believe.
Yeah, Gallup. Yeah. Well, whoever you're getting post June 1st isn't going to be game changer, but it's a decent guy, right? Like, if you add two guys in the draft and throw in DJ Chark, like, I don't even know if he wants to come, right? There might be just too many mouths to feed in a weird way, right? Like, you had two guys in the draft on top of Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, and Khalil Shakir. Does DJ Chark want to come? I don't know. Like, how productive can he be? So, but I do think but this scenario might be more if they take a guy in the first round, but then don't really take another receiver. Right? That scenario could be like a DJ Chark. Or they take a day 3 guy. Late day 3 guy. If you know what I mean? Like if they take a guy at 28 and 60, do they really add a veteran guy in the offseason? I don't think so.
Right, because they already added Curtis Samuel he's just as good of a veteran.
That's my point is, like, if they only add one guy in day 1 and day 2, then that might make more sense to go get like a DJ Chark post June 1st.
Yeah, I mean, I think, guys, they're going to have UDFAs as well coming in at receiver. There's going to be practice squad guys signed. So, yeah, you just want to have the best talent, see who can make it. That's really going to be it. They've got some reserve future guys sitting there in Isabella and Hamler who are, basically being written off, and that's fine, but they're going to compete. These guys are all going to come out and compete. We can't rely on them. I know that, but it's just a matter of like, hey, there's bodies here, and there's going to be 3 or 4 wide receivers from the draft, whether it's drafted picks or undrafted free agents. So
I know people like Tyler Boyd in the comment section. I just don't know if he fits.
Yeah.
I don't know where he fits on this roster. And I get Joe Brady can use him, and I don't know if that's the guy. You got to get another guy on the outside, and they're going to do that in the draft. But I think if you're going to add one on the free agency, you have to get a guy that can take the top off the defense and a guy that can stretch the field on the outside. And I think DJ Chark probably fits that, in my opinion. Want to rip a simulator before my man? Because I'm exhausted. We've talked a lot tonight, I feel like, for some reason.
Yeah, I've got a fan on me. It's starting to cool down in the room upstairs here at my new house. So you want to make a trade, or do you want to start?
We're only doing one, so what do you think?
Start. Oh, want a first round pick and Mike Williams for 28?
No.
You want Corey Linsley?
No.
Yeah, terrible.
See ya.
Terrible deals.
Who's the best receiver available?
Adonai Mitchell, sorry, and Troy Franklin. So
did Troy Franklin just go up their board a little higher?
I got consensus picks selected here. I don't know if that's what you've been using, but I got consensus rather than the draft buzz picks because I wanted to see what it would do for us.
Go up a little.
So
no, go to the left. Where did Thomas Jr. go? I just want to put this in perspective. I feel like that's a good thing we should look at.
19.
Wow. That's probably where you have to go get him, in my opinion. And where did the other 3 guys go?
Early. Tuesday at 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean
that's if those 3 teams didn't move. I think Chargers probably move out of their pick, or maybe Arizona, so it might change it. But yeah, that's kind of where I view those guys, in my opinion.
Yep.
I know people will get. Roy, we're not taking Troy Franklin round 1. It's okay. Roy's having a little hissy fit. Not jerking.
He doesn't want me to take. He knows I want to take Troy Franklin here, doesn't he?
Yeah. Should we
Yeah, he knew I wanted to.
I would go 80 Mitchell. That's who I go here at 28. I know
I would go Nate Wiggins here, but I know people hate defense, so or trade back.
You do know Nate Wiggins plays cornerback, right?
Yeah.
You would still go Nate Wiggins?
Pretty well, right?
We don't have to. Who would you
We
take?
took Mitchell. Look at that.
Because we can do whatever we want.
Took Mitchell because Peter loves Mitchell. And
Xavier Worthy or Leggett? I'm not taking Xavier Worthy over Mitchell or Leggett.
Dude, Troy Franklin sitting there at 60.
Oh, we're so double dipping.
Dude, look at that. Look at that draft. Crushed it.
We don't have to take another player in the rest of this draft.
Yeah.
It's just over.
Done with this draft.
We just pissed so many people off in the comment section.
Got them. All right. Who else we got here? We got 2 4th-round picks and 2 5th-round picks to make. So
No, we have 3 5th-round picks.
Do we? Yeah, we have 3.
For some freaking annoying ass
So
reason.
many picks. Need to get
what's the safety room look like?
That's where I wanted to go, and I clicked yellow on accident. Bo Brady.
Keaton Odapo. It's not bad. I think we could wait on those safeties.
We're waiting. Is our guy gone? Man.
Cole Bishop.
Our token 4th-round pick is not there. Every time Cole Bishop's the guy.
D tackle now.
Taking him so many times that people are like, no, we're taking him sooner.
I like Muhammad Kamara. I think he's good.
Is he related to Alvin Kamara?
He basically runs as fast as Alvin Kamara.
Wow, crazy. That's your guy?
Not my guy. I like him.
You want Nelson Caesar?
Christian Boyd's a good D tackle too.
Bo Limmer, he's there.
I would probably go with Muhammad Kamara here. That's who I probably look at. No, or we take a running back and just piss people off.
Joe Milton.
So we took 2 receivers. That is correct. We took 2 receivers.
Why wouldn't we take 2 receivers?
If you got me, I walked with 80 Mitchell,
Peter's favorite pick at 28, and then my favorite pick at 28, and we got him at 28 and 60. So why doesn't that make any sense? It's a great draft. We got 2 outside receivers. We just got 2 inside receivers in Shakir and Curtis Samuel and Joey tight ends. Right. We just got so many weapons.
If we take a running back, we need a thumper. He's right on that. That's a good point by Joey. What's the safety room look like now? Oh no, it's only 6 picks. We're waiting. Safety's going to the 5th round.
Still waiting. Still get another receiver.
We could just take 7 receiver. What does the D tackle room look like?
Sorry, I'm looking at some big guys.
What about that? Go down a little. Jordan Jefferson we could take.
Jordan Jefferson, take him. Taking him plenty of times. He's probably a reach at that pick now. He's probably
probably already in Buffalo.
144, but
he's probably already in Buffalo because we took him so many times. Who'd you just take?
James Williams.
Took a linebacker, dude.
I thought he played safety. Oh well, fair enough.
What do you mean fair enough? We don't have safety.
Isn't he a safety? He was a safety like a month ago, wasn't he?
Go to the safety room.
Is that the guy that was a safety a month ago?
Go to the safety room.
No, we took Bo Brady on accident.
What is going on, Lance?
The mouse is not working. Everything's falling apart. All right. Well, we took.
You're right. James Williams is a safety. Who the frick is this James Williams?
Dude, I don't know. Confused the hell out of me because I saw James Williams. I'm like, oh, safety, Miami. Let's go.
Safety. Do I have a linebacker on my board named James Williams?
You even have a guy?
No, he's a safety.
He's a safety. We took a safety. We took 2 safeties now. Then we'll get a center. Why not? Okay. Perfect.
You're giving up, aren't you?
It's a great draft. Look at what we did. You said after those 2 receivers, that's basically big dubs. So after that,
you know what? We technically did fill some needs. We took 2 safeties. James Williams is a safety.
James Williams, the safety. I told you he was the whole time.
Now, when I tweet this in a couple days, I got to put in the comments, in the description,
Lance went rogue after round 4. Sorry, guys.
where James Williams is a safety. Draft Buzz is being stupid. Let me Google him. Well, he's not a linebacker. Oh, there's two.
Not
James
even
Williams.
close to a linebacker.
There's two James Williams, dude.
I took the wrong one. That's all right. He's going to be a fine linebacker for the Bills.
Coverage linebacker.
This makes sure we don't have to
This is the same guy.
It's the same guy? Yeah. He's going to be fantastic. James Williams out of Miami, fantastic fit for the Buffalo Bills. And get him in the 5th round, guys. Come on.
Why do they have him as a linebacker?
This is a peak draft right here.
Yeah, NFL.com has him as a safety. He's 6'4", 6'5", dude.
Yeah, he's huge. Huge mungus.
He's Josh Allen's height, almost. Okay, time to get out of here.
Now we got to do our research on Bo Brady because I have no idea who he is.
I have
we get to get Hunter Norzad.
4th round grade on him.
Center from Penn State too. So I mean, just really crushed this.
I have a 4th round grade on Bo Brady.
You do? Got him in the 5th. Look at that value. Look at that value.
I also realized I have to update some of my interior alignment.
Dude, you better update.
Because I stink at evaluating offensive linemen. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I'll tell you.
One thing I'm never going to do is claim to be an expert on anything. This is an opinion-based show. My opinion and your opinion are not the same out there, folks, and it's okay. We're going to...
Unless you think Ladd McConkey's is Chris Hogan's Ladd McConkey, or Ladd McConkey's Chris Hogan, then you're wrong. But
Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel.
But tune in next week. Okay, Lance, we got to get out of here before I lose my absolute mind. We done?
I'm good.
Okay. Draft. Couple weeks away. We have 2 shows left before the NFL draft. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. If you missed this episode, rewatch it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And it comes out tomorrow morning on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Just type in Built in Buffalo Podcast Network. Like it says in the comment section, thank you so much for all your comments. Lance, plug Built in Buffalo quickly, and we're leaving.
Yeah, guys, check out Going Deep Buffalo tomorrow with the Kevins, Kevin Massari and Kevin Syracuse. Kevin Syracuse got to go out and do an interview with Stevie Johnson this past weekend, so that was great. Got a really cool event coming up on Saturday at the McKinley Mall, Potathon, to benefit Ezra, Ranting Ron's son. Great deal there. So come out to McKinley Mall if you're around the area and check out that. We got a lot of cool guests that are going to be there. And check my Twitter at Lance Nelson BIB for the list. I just tagged them all yesterday. I'm going to put another post up and tag them again today or tomorrow probably. So check out the list of folks that are coming through, Buffalo media members as well as podcasters. So I'm not going to name one because I'm going to forget another one and I'll feel bad. So I'm not going to name any. And then the Hoof is Thursday. So check them out. You got the Founder Spot on Saturday. And our guy Izzy coming with it on Sunday, and then it's back again the next week. And Mondays are back to Buffalo Against the World, and we'll be here next Tuesday. So thanks for tuning in. Check out all the Built in Buffalo's social media pages, builtinbuffalonews.com for articles, and really appreciate it.
Joey, appreciate you having 12-man Mafia, but you always share. I always share it to the Facebook group to hopefully people enjoy it in that group chat. And I appreciate you coming on. And commenting. And hopefully come back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. That is going to do it for us. Over 350 people are watching and listening right now. That is awesome. This was some nice draft topic. We'll talk more about the draft next week, maybe a little less about the receiver position, or we just bore you with the receiver position over and over again. The most
more fat guys next weekend to come.
Yes. And the most important thing is we got A.D. Mitchell and Troy Franklin. So it's a good day. Okay, that is going to do it for us. He was Lance and I was Peter. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.